The food bank started in 2012, and it was essentially a cupboard in the back of a church. There were maybe 1 or 2 clients a week right at the beginning, but since March the 23rd this year, we've delivered food to over 20,000 people. I chose to volunteer for the food bank because I hate the idea of anyone going hungry and people struggling for money to the extent that they can't afford to eat. I have 3 children of my own, and the idea of not being able to give them enough to eat is awful. That indicated to me that there was really something going wrong in our community. By the time I got involved with volunteering for the food bank, Universal Credit had rolled out in Morecambe, and the numbers of clients were just going up and up and up. I gave up my job working for a marketing agency in the middle of lockdown. I had a moment where I just thought, this pandemic is going to affect people in such a way that families are really going to struggle. And the more that I was involved with the council and the more that I was involved with volunteering for the food bank, the more that I realised I actually wanted to do this work all the time, and I've since taken a paid job with Citizens Advice. When lockdown happened, the first thing we realised very quickly at the food bank was that we were going to have to shut. Because where we operated from was this really tiny room, everyone was squished together. We've got almost 80 regular volunteers, and a lot of those volunteers were over the age of 70, and some had underlying health conditions. The first thing that we did was to change the way we operated. We had these big long tables and we had people in gloves and masks and we were handing food over. It was good, but we realised quickly that it probably wasn't going to be good enough. Around the 18th of March, we had a call from Mark Davis, the head of communities and the environment at Lancaster City Council, because he could see that there was going to be a huge number of people who were going to struggle to access food, not necessarily because they couldn't afford it, but because if you get told to stay in your house and you can't get an online shop and you haven't got a network of people around you, you were going to be completely stuck. My colleagues and I sat at the tables with Mark outside Saltaire Leisure Centre at 2 metres distance. We got a blank bit of paper out and we thought, right, what are we going to do? The City Council were incredible with the speed at which they were willing to make decisions. They said, right, you can have our buildings, you can have our people, you can have our vehicles. So we had the bones of an operation and it happened very, very quickly. Within about 48 hours, we'd moved 13 tonnes of food into Saltaire Leisure Centre. What was so inspiring about it is that I think that everyone was very, very aware that there was about to be a lot of emergency need and everyone worked together. There were a couple of hiccups along the way. At first, one of the biggest problems was that all of our donations just stopped almost overnight because of lockdown. People weren't going shopping, so they weren't donating food, and usually all the food that we distribute is donated by the general public. It was also really difficult to try and buy the things we needed because obviously at the beginning of lockdown there were a lot of headlines saying there's no beans, there's no pasta, there's no loo roll, and it meant that we couldn't get it either. It took a bit of doing, but we found a wholesaler in Blackburn who helped us out. Another thing that we realised was that we didn't have enough volunteers due to lockdown, so the City Council redeployed staff at Saltaire who were absolutely amazing and they quickly got stuck in. We have maybe 10 vans on the road at any one time delivering. We had Lancaster Search and Rescue who also came in and helped us with our route planning and all our logistics. On a typical day when it was really, really busy, the food bank would be delivering hundreds of parcels. We have a team in the office who would be taking referrals over the phone, and we would have a big team packing the boxes because it takes quite a long time to put the right things into the boxes. The council's support was invaluable. Usually we would give out 3 days emergency food, what's called non-perishable, but we decided to redesign a bigger box and we added in fresh food, fruit and vegetables and cheese, a little bit of milk and ham if we had it, things like that. There is an incredible network in Lancaster and Morecambe of people who work in this charity sector. It really was all about trying to work together to make sure that people had what they needed. The way that the food bank works is that if you need food, you don't just ring up and get it. You have to be referred by somebody. We usually get most of our referrals from Citizens Advice, but they were all locked down and working from home. So the City Council also opened phone lines for vulnerable residents, and we created a website in about 4 days. When someone is referred to the food bank, we always try to find out why. What we're finding as time goes on and as things open up more is that we're actually now starting to see people we've never seen before. Families who are struggling because they've either been put on furlough or they've been made redundant or they've got childcare problems, and they're finding that they're really, really struggling to get by. We live in this amazing town, in this amazing district, and it's such a privilege to be a local councillor in a council who just made a decision to say, right, we are going to help people. They released £1 million to help vulnerable people. And the other thing that surprised me was just the level of the donations that we got. We have had incredible generosity. People have given us money and food on levels that we've never seen before. There are staff on our team and volunteers at our food bank who have devoted their lives to helping people during this lockdown, and it has been extraordinary to see. It's the volunteers who make us what we are. I'm hoping that we can all be really ambitious for what comes next, because I think we have an opportunity to build back better. It's not about making it more efficient for us. It's about making it most efficient for the client. I would really like to have a vision of working better in partnership with other agencies and charities, putting the clients at the heart of what we're doing. The Food Bank is part of the Trussell Trust, which is a national charity that works across the UK. Every time we feed somebody, all of those numbers go into a national picture, and they campaign nationally to try and make changes in the benefits system and for people who are very, very vulnerable, so that we can try and reduce the numbers of people who need food. Because really, we shouldn't be here at all.